Hi, this is Allen Shay, and welcome to the first Northwest Commission meeting with our new chair, which you guys will find out once we go into the room and get started. And we're going to lay out some new concerns in the Northwest, and hopefully you'll find them quite interesting.
Chair Shay,
Present.
Commissioner Washington,
Present.
Vice Chair Snelly,
Present.
Commissioner Romo, present. Commissioner Richardson King, present. Commissioner Darden,
Present.
Commissioner Delgado, present. Commissioner Dominguez. We have a quorum.
Have a quorum. Good. We will first take a look at approving the minutes from June. Hopefully, everybody at least had a chance to read through it. Any questions? I move forward.
Second.
Have a second on that? Call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? So approved. We're going to go to the day's agenda. I believe there was one cancellation. Correct? Okay, so we'll see, are there any public comments today? Any public comments? Okay, we're gonna move forward then. Looks like our first item on the agenda, I think what we're gonna do is we have officers, and that would be, who was the one that was canceled?
Oh, it's not on the agenda.
Oh.
It was air pressure.
Oh.
So it's removed from the agenda.
So we're going to bring forth
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lieutenant John Luna, and I'm standing in for your new Service Area 2 Lieutenant, who's going to be Lieutenant Johnny Mercado. And he's on vacation right now, and he asked me to come to the meeting. I presented at the Northwest Commission meetings before. Lola gave me a list of items that you wanted some information on. One of the items was the next Citizen Police Academy date. And the next Citizen Police Academy date is September 22nd. And if anyone's interested, I have an email that you could jot down and send Community Resource Officer Carla Cajola an email if you have any citizens that are interested in attending. And I would like to invite any of you on the commission to attend as well. Her email is kkauhola@cityofpasadena.net. Everyone get that? Going to a list of incidents. One incident that Lola requested some information on was on July 3rd at Fair Oaks and Villa. It was a health and safety code violation that occurred at 10:04 p.m. That case involved the issuance of citations for possession of marijuana for sales to a male 39 years old and a male 32 years old. Another incident occurred on July 3rd, and that was a cite out for possession of marijuana while driving, and that was at 8:59 p.m. at Raymond and Woodbury. And the cite outs on that case were a female 19 years old and a male 20 years old. Another incident was a grand theft on July 7th at 9:57 p.m. And that was an online report. The citizen reported stolen baseball equipment. You can go on our department's website and report property crimes and crimes that occurred maybe the day before or the week before. You can go online. And then there was an incident on July 7th in the 700 block of North Marengo. And that incident occurred at about 6:41 p.m. and it was a fight. The victim, 47-year-old male, heard an argument outside of his residence. He went outside, at which time a suspect produced a replica firearm and threatened to shoot the victim. There was a struggle, and the victim suffered minor injuries. There was a forgery that occurred on July 6th, and there's a known suspect in that case, and the question was that a business? And the answer is no, it wasn't a business, and it was a known suspect to the victim. The next incident occurred on July 6th, and it was a health and safety violation. And a male, 55 years old, was arrested for possession of drug paraphernalia and also for falsely impersonating another person. So what probably happened is he gave the officers the identity of someone else prior to booking. Another incident was on July 5th, and it was a public intoxication. A male, 44 years old, was arrested. And the question on this incident was whether it was related to the purchase at a specific business. And the answer is that in this case it's unknown. The individual was in possession of half a pint of vodka. The officers usually ask the suspect where they purchased the alcohol. Sometimes they tell us, sometimes they don't. And then sometimes they're so intoxicated that they simply don't provide an answer. Another incident was a 415 group at Villa Park, and that was on July 5th at 8:47 p.m. And officers, well actually a citizen reported that there were males drinking at a picnic table. Officers responded and issued citations for drinking in public to 3 males, ages 26 years old and 37 years old. Another public intoxication on July 5th, and again the question was whether it was related to a business. And there was no alcohol in the person's possession. The person was under the influence of alcohol, and they were not asked where they had been consuming alcohol. This incident actually involved a vandalism as well, and it actually occurred at 7-Eleven. The female, 55 years old, went into the store. She got into a fight with several other subjects. The shopkeeper called the police, and she was detained and ID'd by the shopkeeper, and the officer generated a vandalism report for damage that occurred during the disturbance. And then on July 4th, there was a vandalism, and that was an online report. And it occurred in the 1000 block of East Howard, and it was vandalism to a vehicle. The next incident was a battery, and that was on July 4th at 3:22 p.m. And the victim suffered a laceration in the face, the back, and elbow. The victim was not transported to a hospital, and the suspect is unknown. The suspect was seen running into Community Arms, and detectives are conducting follow-up investigation on that case. And then there was a health and safety violation on July 4th at 12:51 p.m. And that was possession of marijuana for sales, and it involved the arrest of a male 26 years old and a female 25 years old. And the last incident that specifics were requested on occurred on July 4th at 12:32 p.m. And that was at Villa Park, and that was the arrest of a 75-year-old male for public intoxication. With the with the Parks After Dark, the department has brought the violence reduction enforcement efforts back, and a notable arrest was made on, let me get the date here, July 10th, and it was the arrest of a male 25 years old for armed robbery. He was arrested at Kings Villages, however the robbery occurred in the 600 block of North Lake. And there was also a warrant arrest of a male 52 years old, and he had over $215,000 worth of warrants. On the issue of fireworks violations, at the council meeting last night, Councilman Gordo and I believe it was Kennedy expressed their concern about the number of complaints they received from residents regarding illegal fireworks. And the department, we also received a high volume of calls. Just to give you some background, the police department teamed up with the fire department, who took the lead on an enforcement detail. The mission was to mitigate the use or possession of illegal fireworks in Pasadena. As you know, the city maintains a zero tolerance policy for fireworks. Violators are subject to citations, arrests, impounded vehicles, seizure of illegal fireworks, to include safe and sane fireworks. Multiple pounds of illegal fireworks were taken off the street this year to mitigate the use and possession. On Saturday, July 2nd, the Police Department Special Enforcement Section conducted a narcotics investigation in the 1800 block of Navarro. During the investigation, several pounds of marijuana were seized, along with a large cache of illegal fireworks in excess of 360 pounds. The category of the fireworks were dangerous and illegal to possess in the state of California and County of Los Angeles. 2 adults were arrested on felony narcotics charges and misdemeanor possession charges of illegal fireworks. This is the single largest seizure of fireworks within the city's recent history. Last year, the enforcement detail seized a combined total of less than 100 pounds of fireworks during the July 4th holiday season. This year, the enforcement detail was deployed from July 1st to July 4th. The city fire department takes the lead in the enforcement detail, as I said, and this year, between July 4th and July 5th, the police department received over 190 calls for fireworks from residents. Then I'll move into the PowerPoint presentation here. This slide here shows, the slide on the left shows the crimes against persons that occurred in Service Area 2. We had 9 robberies. They were mostly street robberies. In 5 of the cases, the suspects were known to the victim, and 3 arrests were made. The slide on the right shows person crimes. Burglary and theft from vehicles is a problem, especially with unlocked vehicles. There were only 3 so far in July. Stolen vehicles are high during this time period, and it's a wide variety of makes and models. And at least 3 vehicles had keys in an unlocked vehicle. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal this week about a computer device that auto thieves are using now to start modern vehicles. Instead of trying to hotwire the ignition or the steering column, they're actually patching into the car's computer and turning the car on. We also have cases where people are telling us they lock their vehicles, and there's other electronic devices that can defeat the locking mechanism on modern vehicles. We had 2 shootings. We had 1 shooting in the 1500 block of Mentone. A juvenile was walking home when a vehicle pulled up and shot him. The juvenile is in stable condition. and the case appears to be gang-related. Detectives are conducting follow-up. And then we had the shooting in the 100 block of West Washington, and detectives are continuing follow-up on that investigation. I worked homicide back in the late 90s, and I can tell you that most homicides in Pasadena get solved. Why do they get solved? Because although we're a large city, we're still a small town and people talk. A lot of times they don't get solved right away. A lot of times it takes time. People are arrested, they're in custody, and then they want to share information with detectives, and we're able to solve crimes that way. A lot of times we receive weak tips, and then another important thing is staying in contact with the families. The families hear things on the street that detectives are able to conduct follow-up on. We had a road rage incident in the 400 block of North Los Robles. There was a handgun that was brandished, and then the suspect struck the victim with a gardening tool. And we had a report of a shooting at Fair Oaks in Washington on the 19th. No victims were located. There was evidence of a shooting. And we had an assault with a deadly weapon on the 28th. Male, 28 years old, was arrested in that incident, and that was in the 100 block of East Washington. And then we had an assault with a deadly weapon where the weapon was a brick, and the suspect is known, and detectives are conducting follow-up. And then we also had an assault with a deadly weapon with a knife at Lake and Orange Grove, and a male was arrested, 30 years old, Van Nuys resident. He pulled the knife and cut the victim. The victim was intoxicated. Shots heard, calls for service. Oftentimes sometimes they're fireworks and people are reporting shots fired. We received 23 reports of shots fired between June 14th and July 10th. Now that's 23 calls. If you recall, I gave you the figure of 190 calls of fireworks between July 1st, I forget the exact dates, I think it was July 1st and July 5th. And then the dispositions on the shots fired calls, 12 of the calls the officers were unable to locate. 4 of the calls were duplicates, which means that it was one incident, but multiple people called to report it. 2 were unfounded. They're mostly unfounded because they were determined to be fireworks. 2 were resolved, 2 calls were canceled, and 1 was gone on the officer's arrival. And there's a map of the incidents. Any questions? Yes.
I have a question. So in the future, it'll be very helpful to get the reports and see which, when you respond to a call, if it's an apartment rental or a residential. I know there have been several meetings held by the council members here in the Northwest, and a lot of the concerns from residents is the over crowding of the apartments in this area, but also all the violence that takes place in those residents. So I know there's been discussions of keeping the landlords accountable, but I think when giving your presentations, it will be very helpful to know whether that's an apartment rental, a house rental, or a residential call as well.
I do. I was wondering, do you have any comparison from this time last year in consistency in the number of incidents, or does it seem like it's tapered off?
You know, let me see if I brought those stats with you.
Yeah, it's included in lower.
Because hearing that, that same thought came to my mind, so I went to this actual report, and hopefully he has it there. It's actually down
I
You know,
saw
that
it in
was-
the packet.
Yeah, that was sent out.
Part of the newsletter.
Yeah, part of it.
Okay, the city manager, okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Shay, I don't have that exact data.
Okay, because what I would suggest in the future, so we can help you support how effective whatever method we're using to minimize and reduce crime is working. So keep that in mind. You have to go back to the other question.
I did on the calls for shots fired, it looked like they were clustered in a particular area. It was kind of hard for me to see the slide. Can you kind of describe which area or note which area that was?
Yeah, let me go back and see which, looks like it's between Marengo and Las Rolas. I worked July 4th, and we had a large party in the 1200 block of North Marengo. We had about 300 to 400 people at the party, and residents called and said that people were lighting fireworks in the middle of the street. When we got there, we couldn't determine who had been lighting the fireworks, but we broke the party up. But we did receive numerous calls regarding that party on July 4th.
And is it going to be the procedure of the city that every year the fire department take the lead on the calls for fireworks, the elite fireworks that we, or anybody in the Northwest can tell you go off starting on the 1st and they're still going off?
Yeah, that would be the police chief and the fire chief would make that determination. But in the past couple of years, actually it's been probably more than 3 years that the fire department's been taking the lead. I don't know the exact number, but they handle the disposal of the fireworks once they're seized. And that's one of the reasons why the enforcement team rides with the fire department. The fireworks are transported to the station at Lake and Villa where we have a disposal facility. And there's a lot of other potential violations that the fire department personnel are experts in identifying regarding fireworks.
So residents should be calling the fire department first?
No, call the police department. The calls are dispatched to the police department. Yes.
Barbara?
There was, I'm not sure if you reported that, because there was a, you said juvenile, but an infant was shot in Pasadena, and I think the infant was killed.
Yes. Yes, I was working the night that shooting occurred, and the sheriff's department asked us to assist them, and we sent our officers down to the hospital. There was also a male in his 40s that was shot as well.
So I'm assuming it's gang related, and it could be, you know, some suspects that live in Pasadena. Do you feel that there's any going to be any retaliation because of that?
There's not a nexus to Pasadena that I know of. Our detectives are in contact with the sheriff's department detectives, and you know if there is a nexus, we'll certainly you know look into that. A connection.
A connection.
A connection.
It was gang related, though, shooting?
I don't know. I don't want to speculate. You know, I've heard that it might have been gang related, but the sheriff's department would have to make the determination on that.
I had a question, piggybacking on Commissioner Delgado's question, holding the landlords accountable with regards to the incident at Kings Village. Has the suspect been traced to being a resident of Kings Village? Because that is a HUD-assisted property.
Yes, I just attended a Safe Streets meeting last month, and a lot of residents are involved in a Safe Streets action against Kings Villages, and they're actually making public records requests through the police department to get all of the reports. So they're,
Because that's an immediate eviction right there, because that's a federal lease.
right. If it's determined that there's a connection, that will definitely be reported.
Any further questions for the lieutenant? Okay, we appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, we're gonna move on. But before we do that, I'd like to recognize our vice mayor who's here with us this evening. And this is Mayor Masuda. And I'm glad that he's here joining us tonight so we can kind of get a feel for our Northwest Commission meetings and certainly, you know, what we're gonna look forward to improving on, especially with the events that's taking place recently. So we'll go ahead and move to the next agenda item. And I'm going to ask well, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go through the Heritage Square first, so that kind of give us a update on how that project is progressing. So, you know, Steve got a lot of good information.
Every time you report that. And actually, the report that was provided, if you take a look at the heading under construction, I mean, that really sums everything up there in terms of the construction is 90% completed. I had an opportunity, let me just digress just for a second, but still on topic. I had an opportunity to actually walk the property recently, and it looks really good. They're really, at this point, they're inside, just putting some of the final fixtures inside. The surrounding areas, really for the park construction, all of the foundation, or not the foundation, but the asphalt and everything still needs to be laid. But right now, the property looks very good. They're putting the
Hi, this is Allen Shay. Hopefully you found today's show quite informative and full of information. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me or join me on Facebook on Our Society TV.